Today, we're opening a set of files that they really deal with the most extreme intersection of military duty and just absolute primal dread. We are stepping away from the training manuals, from the enemy briefs, to dive into accounts from servicemen and women who encountered horrors that, well, they had no classification, no protocol.
And no name.
And no name.
These sources are so profoundly unsettling because they come from highly disciplined people. I mean, these are individuals trained to handle the absolute extreme, yet in these stories, their training completely failed them. It wasn't applicable because the threats they faced defied conventional reality.
That's the core of our mission today. We're going to try to distill the terrifying nuggets of knowledge from three really distinct narratives.
And they're all over the place.
They are. These incidents range from, isolated stateside bases to active war zones, showing that sometimes the greatest terror is actually internal to the mission itself. We're going to start with a story that validates the darkest of local legends. It comes from an Air Force base in Louisiana.
It's important to set the scene here. Military bases, especially the older ones, they develop a kind of institutional folklore. So this airman, he arrives in 2006 and he's immediately immersed in the base's lore. Tales of dark figures, a man in a top hat, and this one specific tragedy.
Right, the one that happened during the construction of this huge storage facility on base.
Exactly.
The central legend revolved around a little girl. During the building of this structure, she was visiting her father who worked there, and tragically, she fell from one of the upper levels to her death.
It's a horrible origin story, and it just perfectly sets the scene for a lingering, maybe vengeful presence.
So fast forward a few years, the narrator from our source is now tasked with routine security patrols, and his route takes him around this mostly closed-down storage area.
The scene of the accident.
The very same place. And this is where the specific details in the material start to really build the dread. His usual patrol vehicle was out of commission.
So he gets a replacement.
It does. A massive, loud diesel cattle truck.
And that detail, it's so much more than just flavor. I mean, think about it. You go from a quick, agile security car to this low, cumbersome, and really loud truck.
It changes everything.
It completely changes the dynamic of being isolated. You feel exposed, and you have this constant source of noise that should, in theory, drown out any subtle sounds from outside.
It should. So they're on their third and final check. It's around 4 a.m., the dead center of the witching hour.
Of course.
The narrator is riding shotgun with the alpha driver, that's the term for the lead patrol member, and they turn onto Ego Street, the road that runs right alongside where the girl is said to have fallen.
And that's where the environment just suddenly begins to fight back.
It does. They're just chatting, when all of a sudden the air changes. The narrator describes this almost instantaneous and frightening silence.
A vacuum of sound.
Exactly. The heavy rumble of that diesel engine, the vibrations, even the faint static from the radio. It all just became eerily less audible. It should have been physically possible inside that metal cab.
The human brain interprets that kind of sudden sensory deprivation as a danger signal. It's a warning, even before you consciously know what the threat is.
And then the sound came back. But it wasn't natural. Out of his left ear, the narrator hears this low, distressful groaning. A moan.
Oh, man.
He said it was wet, ragged, and instantly recognizable. He specifically compared it to the terrifying sound from the girl in the movie The Grudge.
That is a horrible sound.
His blood turned ice cold, and he immediately snapped at his partner, "Dude, cut that noise out." He just assumed the driver was playing a terrible prank. But his partner was genuinely confused, had no idea what he was talking about. So the narrator silences the radio completely, and in that quiet, they both just wait.
And then
they both heard it again. A long, chilling groan of a woman, echoing. And it sounded exactly like someone struggling to breathe or being strangled.
And this is where the terror becomes concrete, right?
Yeah.
When an irrational experience is validated by someone else, it shifts from paranoia to reality. It's the moment they realize they weren't just tired, they were being haunted.
And as they sat there, totally frozen, the sound of the truck's back gates clattering, the deep engine rumble, it was suddenly just overwhelmed. They heard the final groan, louder, more distressed, and frighteningly. It sounded like it was coming from both inside and outside the cab of that massive truck.
Surrounding them.
Completely surrounding them. That was the breaking point. The Alpha driver just floored it, speeding out of there so recklessly he nearly flipped the truck on a curve.
I don't blame him.
They get back to the main base, shaken, probably anticipating ridicule from their superior, the flight chief.
But that's not what happened, is it?
No. The chief's response is the final, chilling nugget of this story. He doesn't dismiss them. He immediately says, "I completely believe you."
Wow.
And then tells them the exact same thing had happened to him. Twice. In that same area.
So the leadership knew. They knew that part of the base was actively, dangerously haunted.
The narrator stresses that this fear is still real years later. He never drove down Echo Street after dark again. It's just a stark reminder that some dangers, they just don't show up on a radar screen. Now, we need to shift gears pretty dramatically. We're moving from the localized dread of a stateside base to the profound, classified psychological horrors of an active war zone.
Vietnam.
Our next account comes from a young American RTO, a radio telephone operator, during the Vietnam War.
The context here is just so critical. An RTO is the nerve center of a unit. They manage all communications, they filter chaos into intelligence. This young man had already been hardened by the front lines. He was used to death.
But not this!
Not this kind of clinical cold horror.
He was suddenly pulled from his combat unit and reassigned to an intelligence officer named Frederick Douglass, an older man, late 50s. The narrator noted Douglass's calculating demeanor. It seemed entirely out of place in the jungle.
It suggests Douglass was running a deep black operation, something highly classified, probably outside the normal chain of command. Research that would violate, standard operational ethics.
They land in this heavily wooded area next to what looked like some abandoned Viet Cong camps. And the atmosphere was immediately wrong.
How so?
The soldiers there, they didn't interact normally. They had these strange, emotionless glares. And disturbingly, some were wearing gas masks. The narrator recalled them acting like they were infected with something.
That's unsettling.
He was told to stay put, but his professional curiosity got the better of him. He slipped away and peered inside the main tent. And this is where the story gets really disturbing.
Go on.
On a makeshift table, he saw 6 murky, opaque containers. And inside each container was the severed head of a Viet Cong guerrilla fighter.
Oh my God. This immediately goes beyond battlefield brutality. This is unauthorized, horrific experimentation.
It is, because these weren't just trophies. There were tubes and wires protruding from the heads. A greenish liquid was actively reacting inside the containers. And the narrator watched, horrified, as this reaction caused the mouths and eyes of the severed heads to quiver.
Quiver.
Like they were semi-conscious, like they were half alive.
So what does that suggest? Are they trying to gather post-mortem intelligence by stimulating nerve responses, or is this something stranger? Biowarfare research, the secrecy around it is palpable.
Before he could really process what he was seeing, Officer Douglass grabbed his shoulder, furious, and ordered him back. And this is the true terror of military suppression. The narrator's next memory is waking up in a triage unit a day later.
Waking up where?
In triage.
Yeah.
With broken ribs and a fractured collarbone.
And the memory?
Gone. He has absolutely no memory of what happened between Douglass grabbing him and him waking up injured.
That break in memory is critical. It could be trauma-induced amnesia. His mind just blocked out the horror.
Yeah.
Or it could be deliberate.
What do you mean?
Did Douglass's team do something to him? Use some technique to erase the memory, knowing he'd seen too much? The injuries suggest a struggle, but the memory vacuum, that suggests deliberate psychological suppression.
He never saw Officer Douglass or those strange, masked soldiers again. He was just left, forever haunted by the image of those quivering heads, wondering if the greatest dangers in that war were the people on his own side.
Which brings us to our final account. This one, it defines existential dread. It's the mystery of Bravo Unit, a search mission that turned into a survival scenario against a shadow.
And this moves us into pure tactical horror. When you're trained to fight an enemy you can see, a string of numbers and a feeling of coldness, that's a terrifying vulnerability.
So our sources unit was dispatched to search for Bravo Unit. They just vanished weeks earlier. The only clue they had was this cryptic distress call just echoing endlessly over the comms.
Not a voice.
No, just a monotonous string of numbers, repeating over and over.
They arrive at this abandoned, fog-shrouded base at night. The buildings are just hollowed-out husks, and the signs were immediately bad. Bloodied rags, scattered ammunition, broken glass. Clearly a struggle happened. And as they pushed toward the command center, the transmission got louder. That constant, chilling chant. 58247. Over and over. A monotone voice.
The repetition is crucial. It's not a cipher or a clear code. It's more like a marker. It signals something mechanical, indifferent, almost non-human.
They pushed into the primary laboratory. And that's where they found them. The members of Bravo Unit. Massacred. Scattered across the floor.
But the key detail, the thing that defined the horror. Their faces were contorted in pure, agonizing terror. But there were no bullet wounds, no stab wounds, no conventional signs of a struggle on their bodies at all.
So whatever killed them, it did so silently and with immense psychological force.
They found the unit leader, Commander Haskins, clutching a notepad. The number sequence was scrawled on it repeatedly, followed by one single, chilling sentence that instantly changed their mission from rescue to desperate survival. What did it say?
They're coming for us.
That's a moment of realization, isn't it? They weren't investigating a past event. They had just walked into an active kill zone.
Panic set in. They knew they were the next targets. As they ran for their vehicle through this dense, unnatural fog, that fear, it crystallized. It became a physical presence.
What did they see?
A massive, cold shadow emerged from the mist, described as a strange man cloaked in shadow that felt colder than death itself, and it was moving silently towards them. They scramble into the vehicle. Corporal Lee, their RTO, frantically tries to send a mayday call, begging for immediate extraction.
And it doesn't go through.
Just as she starts to transmit, the radio cuts out, and her plea is interrupted by that relentless monotone sequence, 58247.
So this raises a final important question. Was the number sequence itself a psychological weapon designed to disorient and terrify? Or was it just the last doomed message trying to communicate the identity of an entity that could only be described by data?
They escaped the base. Barely. But the mystery of the numbers and what happened to Bravo Unit remains unsolved, haunting every single member of that team. They now carry the knowledge that something cold, undefined, and capable of erasing a seasoned military unit is just out there. We've recounted 3 tales of absolute military horror, the terrifying validation of local lore by a shared, desperate moan,
the unnatural experiments hidden in a war zone by a calculated intelligence officer,
and the cryptic warning of Unit Bravo, ended by a chilling sequence of numbers and a lethal shadow in the fog.
I think what connects all these accounts is how they highlight the fragility of the military mind when it's confronted with the truly unknown. I mean, the enemy isn't the person you can shoot, it's the thing you can't comprehend.
The ghost.
The forbidden science, or the shadow that defies physics. The ultimate fear is facing an enemy for which there is no training, no protocol, and absolutely no defense.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the archives of military dread and the truly inexplicable. If these stories chilled you, please take a moment to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons for the Horror Docs channel.
Until next time, stay vigilant, and remember that sometimes what you don't know can absolutely kill you.
Goodbye, listener.
Farewell, listener.